I put on over 100 pounds since I started working out, going from a skinny, scrawny, 122-pound teenager to a now 224 pounds and climbing. And the biggest reason for that, the biggest X factor really, was consistency. Sticking with it, believing that the results would come. Now, if I had stopped halfway through, if I had given up on myself, if I had said, this is too hard, I can't do this, I would have never gotten to where I am now, and I will never get to where I'm going to be. In this video, I'm going to share exactly what worked for me in terms of being consistent and sticking with the process so that you can do the same for yourself. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is George Tressiter. I'm the founder and current operator of The Incredible Bulk, where we take hard gainers and turn them into big guys. My goal here today is that you take at least one or two things from this video and apply them to your life directly to see these results, these wins immediately. So let's get right into it. So first, we probably need to know what consistency is. I mean, if we're going to figure it out or manipulate it or make it our own, we should probably know what the word means. And to me, the word means repeating similar actions over time without quitting. So doing not the same actions, because you can do different workouts, you can eat different foods, you can develop different habits, but if those actions are incrementally leading up towards a big goal that you have, and you're not quitting during that time period, I consider that consistency. And so I was able to split up consistency into these four big buckets: beliefs, environment, actions, and time. Now, these are just four general categories, and we're going to dive into each and every one, break it down, and then hopefully you'll be able to take something away from this. So I want to start with this. There's a bunch of steps to solving different problems, but the first step is always the same, and that is my fault. It's admitting that it's your fault, admitting that it's not your parents' fault, it's not your brother or sister, it's not the teacher that said that you wouldn't amount to anything, it's not your ex-girlfriend that cheated on you. It's nobody's fault but yours. Everything you've done up until this point has led you to where you are now. So accepting that it's your fault also means that you're the one who can change it. And so these are three big things that I just want to outline. Why? Why do you want to be better in the first place? For who and why do their perceptions matter at all? What are you willing to give up? For how long? And hard is good. It means no one else will do it. Let's dive in. So when you look at the why of why we do things, why do you want to get better? Why do you want to get in shape? Why do you want to get rich? There's only two buckets that your answer could fall into. That's either acceptance, admiration, praise from people around you, or greater fulfillment of oneself. You're either doing things to get attention from others, or you're doing it because it's something that you truly want to accomplish for yourself. And so you have to decide before we dive in any further, are you doing this because of the family member that you haven't seen in a long time and you want them to say, wow, you're looking pretty jacked this time around? Are you doing this because you want to impress your gym crush, or maybe even get back at an ex? Some people start fitness, some people get into it for those reasons, and those reasons can be really potent, very powerful fuel, but they're ultimately leading you in the wrong direction, which, isn't really fulfilling at the end of the day. The second option, greater fulfillment of oneself, is always going to be the best motivator and the best why, the best reasoning as to why you're doing what you're doing. That's it. Like I said, I've tried to find a third bucket to put these in, but it's really been these two that I've been able to come up with. Giving up things in your life, saying no to people around you, it's not some gladiator like alpha sigma motivation Andrew Tate type thing. It's simply, as you get busier, your ability to say no becomes increasingly more important. And so you're going to have to decide what's important to you. And that means you'll have to say no to some things. You'll have to deny tempting opportunities to go for your one goal. And so don't think it's like some crazy like alpha Chad thing to say no to things, or you have to become like a different human being, or like wake up at 4 a.m. for this. Ultimately, you just have to decide what's important to you. And the second point to that, you can totally make it within a decade. Like you can absolutely get your physique results or your strength results or do whatever you want to do in 10 years. It's totally possible, but do you want it to take that long is the question. Because if you're watching this as a 20-year-old, do you really want to get in shape by the time you're 30? If you're a 30-year-old, do you want to get in shape by the time you're 40? So yes, you want the journey to be fun. You want to enjoy every moment of it. But at the end of the day, we're trying to get to our goals sooner rather than later. The easiest way to go about saying no to things and denying things is just telling the truth. Just telling people that you don't want to do the things that they're asking you to do. Sometimes you don't need a reason. Sometimes you just don't feel like being a part of whatever event's going on. You'd rather work on yourself. You'd rather work towards your goal. And there's nothing wrong with that. And the question you have to ask yourself is, Can you do it for a week? Can you do it for a month? How long can you do it for? How about 5 years? Sometimes that's what it takes for a big goal. So you have to be willing to say no to things. You have to be willing to drop certain opportunities that may seem tempting in the moment, because ultimately saying no to offerings right now is saying yes to your bigger goal. And so sometimes you have to pick. I think hard is a good thing. I think challenges are always a good thing in retrospect. And if you look at any problem you've ever had in your entire life, any rough period, any rough patch, any time where you're really depressed or you're really anxious, you always look back at that in hindsight and you start to appreciate those moments. But being in it sucks, don't get me wrong. So having the ability to look at a hard situation that you're in currently and think this is a good thing. When I get out of this, I'm going to look back and I'll be happy that I went through it. Because you don't want to be on your deathbed and look back and think, I had no difficulty in my entire life. Everything was smooth sailing. I never encountered any problems or inconveniences, because you're not going to have any stories. Like if you watch any movie ever, the hero that gets whatever he wants never really has the interesting story. It's the underdog. It's the guy who gets beat up. It's the guy who gets his girl stolen. It's the guy who loses again and again and again and again, and then eventually figures it out. Those are the stories that we always love the most. And so expecting consistency, expecting the act of sticking with something to be easy is what makes it difficult. For some examples, if you think of like the odd late night, with the last meal that you don't feel like eating, or the tough workout, and no one's forcing you to be there to work out, but you should be training harder, and you have the tempting opportunity to just go home and chill, or you're making the tough call to say no to a night out partying with friends so you can get to bed on time. These are all things that you're going to have to do at some point. This is what hard feels like. And so again, if you can really put yourself in that scenario, maybe you're in that scenario right now. Maybe you're constantly flooded with opportunities to do different things. And so you have to look at these things and think to yourself, is this getting me closer or further to where I want to go? And so if you look at this like, this is hard and this is okay, and I'm going to grow from this, I think it gets a lot easier, especially in retrospect, when you look back at it and you'll think, I'm happy I went through that. So I want you to create these beliefs. I want you to create these beliefs for yourself before we go deeper into anything else, because it really starts in your head. If you're trying to do a million different little tips and tricks or productivity hacks, none of it's going to stick. You really have to fix yourself first and fix your way of thinking. And so understand who you're doing this for. What are you willing to let go in order to get there? For how long? That's a big one. It's only 3 words, but it's a pretty important question you have to ask yourself, because if you're only willing to give this stuff up for a week, you're never really going to get anywhere. But how about a month, 6 months, a year, 5 years, right? Sometimes it takes that long to get to the big goal. And when it sucks, I grow. So again, put yourself in that scenario, know that you're going to get better from it at the end. If you look at this like a story, like a movie, and you're the protagonist, you're the hero of the story, what would that guy have to go through? Ask yourself, what would you have to go through in order to get these goals? Because again, like we said, if you look at any movie ever, the guy who has everything handed to him and has no hardship whatsoever never has a cool story. It's always the guy who gets beat up, who gets his girl stolen, who loses again and again and again, and who gets broken and who comes back stronger to win the big prize, the big championship, the girl, the whatever. And so we look at these characters and we relate to them, but oftentimes we forget that all of those losses led up to the big victory. And so if you never had those losses, there's no victory, right? So if there's no suffering, there's no story. It's a little bit cliche, but I think you're picking up what I'm putting down here. And so I really want you to crush these beliefs. So we talked about the ones that you should create, the ones you should start building off of. These are the ones I think you should let go of. This is hard, I should stop. Now, before you got into trying to get better, trying to improve your physique, your strength, whatever journey you're on, but if you're here, I'm assuming it's because you want to get bigger. Hard meant that it was bad, that I should back away, that I shouldn't embrace it, and that I should have less of it in my life. And I couldn't disagree more with that now, because once you understand that the suffering that you feel right now is just a temporary cost that you pay for the big victory at the end. By the way, that big victory at the end lasts a lifetime. And so if you can just get past this period of suck, where you don't know anything, where you're not progressing the way you want to, and you eventually get to this side. And like I said, it could take months or years, but once you get there, it lasts forever. You don't lose that. Embrace hard. Everyone is telling me not to do this. They're right. I'm wrong. And so quick story time. When I was in school, basically through elementary and high school and a little bit into university as well, I thought everybody had everything figured out. I thought what they said was fact and that they do the things they do because they know better than me. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So as I've gone through this, as I've progressed in fitness and business and as a person as well, most people don't know or like what they're doing. And so if you take what they say as fact, if you take it as like the standard that you have to live up to, you're going to live a pretty miserable life. So I hope that I can call you out on this quickly. If you're a younger guy, even if you're an older guy, it's never too late to figure this out. There was always a few friends that were pretty smart in school. And so not necessarily like geniuses, but sometimes there'd be a test that rolls around in any of my classes in elementary and high school and even in university. And I hear people say, oh, dude, I don't need to study for this. I'm good. You know, people would say that they're confident that they're going to pass the test. And so I thought, well, if they don't have to study for the test, I shouldn't have to study for the test either. And it's not like these kids were like geniuses or anything. Like they're just like regular school kids. Some of them were pretty smart, but like most of them were just average students. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, I probably don't need to study for this either. And so time came around and I just assumed that nobody else was studying. And so I didn't study either. And then I wouldn't get the grade that I want. And that's not necessarily their fault. They're just voicing how they live their lives. And so I took it as fact. I took it as the standard. And I took it as these people, multiple people agree on this one thing. I'm the one who's wrong. As you progress more and more in the thing you want to do, and here it's going to be, you know, getting bigger, getting jacked, you're going to notice that oftentimes what a lot of people say doesn't have to be what you do. And so it's okay to be the one guy who changes it for everybody, right? Because if you're not that one guy, then you're just with the rest of the crowd. And even if that crowd is following the blueprint, even if they're following what they're supposed to be doing, oftentimes the person leading that blind crowd of people is also a blind guy. And so you have a bunch of blind guys following a blind guy. What I mean by that is, you know, the person giving the directions or saying this is the way things should be or this is the way things are and you're wrong. Oftentimes they don't know what they're doing. And so just have some belief in yourself and have some belief that you're doing the right thing. The third thing I want to touch on is, does this, you know, insert activity get me closer or further from where I want to go? So does going out and doing a 3-day bender this weekend get me closer to getting the body and the strength that I want, or does it take me further away? And so you kind of have to pick. Again, I'm not saying to live like a robot, but pick your battles. In 2 words, that's probably how I could sum this up pretty simply. Say no. If there's something you don't feel like doing or you know is going to take you further away from where you want to go, just say no. You're not obligated to say yes. And just because you have some free time doesn't mean it's somebody else's. So you are absolutely allowed to say no. It's not against the law. And I think it's a really good habit to get into if you want to start focusing on yourself more. So with the beliefs down, we're going to move on to environment. 2 big buckets that I could really group my points into: who you're around and what do you do when you're around them. So this goes for people, this goes for places, but mainly it revolves around the people that are in your life. So you are the average of who you compare yourself to. Now there's that popular quote that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. I think that's complete BS because I spend time with my family a lot, but I don't compare my work ethic or my goals to theirs because their goals are different than mine. And so I believe that I'm the average of the people I compare myself to. So that could be a certain athlete, or that can be a certain celebrity or entrepreneur that I compare myself to. And so those people who often are way ahead of me in the thing I want to do are the people I compare myself to. And like, little secret, if you compare yourself to people that are way better than you at the thing you want to do, your standards are so much below theirs that you have to work to get up to their standard, to be on their level. And in the process of working, you're getting better at the thing. So honestly, I think it's a win-win. Comparing your wealth against people who aren't wealthy guarantees that you'll never break away. So if you're slightly the richest guy out of your group of friends, but none of your friends are really rich, then you're just a big fish in a small pond. And that's not the way I want to live my life personally. And I don't think there's much fulfillment in that if you're always the best in a group of 5 or 10 people. So compare your physique to that of the one you want. So whether that person exists in the real world or not, if it's someone that you know personally, if it's someone you see online, Or if it's someone that's not even real, that could be future you. And so you imagine what you want to look like, and it may not look like a specific person, but it's who you want to look like, and you strive for that. So if you don't have a person, regardless if it's a person you know or future you, find them. You know, the internet's a great place. You can look on Instagram pretty quickly and find a lot of crazy things, but you can also find some pretty crazy physiques on there, something for reference. And so, like I said, compare yourself to people that are better than you in the thing you want to do, because you'll up your game to match theirs. Don't try to be better than Brad. You know, the Brad that's at your gym, the Brad that's in your class, the Brad in your friend group. Don't try to be better than Brad. Be better than the guy who is better than 1,000 of those Brads, right? Pick the highest fish, pick the biggest guy that you want to be like, and strive for that. Now, I'm not saying you have to achieve that, but again, if your standards are super high and you fall just short of that, you're going to be a lot better off than you are right now. I think better than yesterday is a term that's overused and frankly not really applicable, because we all have off days, right? You're not going to be better than you were every single day, but you'll like what I have next that relates to this. So I think that I'll kind of skip past this for right now. If you have a day where you fall short, or you're not as hardworking as you usually are, or you do whatever else that doesn't lead up to your goals, don't sweat it. I have days where I get up later. I have days where I stay out later. And so no matter how consistent you are, sometimes you'll slip up a little bit. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you don't deserve this goal or you deserve to die. It's just simply a break. And so, you know, the faster you can pull yourself back into it, whether it's skipping meals, whether it's going out and losing sleep, whether it's skipping out on a training session or not training as hard as you should be, don't sweat it. You know, a session or a day like that every now and again isn't going to kill you, but enough of them will. And so try your best to get back on the wagon. Notice that you fell off and say, hey, I need to get back into the swing of things, and then resume. This is what I wanted to touch on. What I said I think you guys would like. So inputs versus outcomes. If your goal is to get jacked, by having get jacked as your goal, it makes it harder, maybe even impossible, that you're actually going to get there. Why? It takes too long. You know, building muscle, especially as a natural guy, takes months. It takes years to develop a quality physique. And so if you look at where you are right now and your dream physique, which is 5 years away, are you really going to be able to stay committed for 5 years with nothing in between? Likely not. Having the big championship, the big victory, getting jacked as your end goal, it's a good end goal, but it's not the only goal that you should have. Another thing is you're going to give up when you get busy. The point of the game is to keep playing. And so if you only go after this goal when you have time, I don't have time to go for this goal, then that's only contingent on you having time. And you're going to be busy at some point in your life. So accept that things are going to get busy. And when you are able to stick with something when it's busy, when you get more free time, it'll be even easier to go after that goal. And once it gets busy again, then you'll have proof that you can stick with it when it's busy. So the biggest point here is don't give up, don't quit. You know, you're going to be busy at some point, and just stick with it. My advice, get the inputs. Inputs to me are the daily to-dos, things that you check off every single day. So if you were to look at this like a to-do list, you might have shower, brush your teeth, walk the dog, do whatever, things that need to be repeated every single day. Now, not all of your actions are things that you need to keep doing over and over and over again, but in fitness, in bulking up, getting bigger and stronger, there are a few things that need to be managed day by day. So it's not a one and done activity. And if your goal is to get jacked, which I'm hoping it is if you're watching this video, those inputs are eat all of your meals, train hard, get to bed on time. And if you want a bonus input, then you can continue to watch these videos with me so you can learn how to do this stuff and get better faster. Eat all of your meals, train hard, get to bed on time. Those are the three things that if you're doing them daily, those results will come. So the rest of the details, all the small little fixations that you're worried about, that if you're just focused on eating your meals, training hard, getting to bed on time, the results you want will come. But skip out on one of those and then you miss the gains entirely. The point of this is to make the inputs your goal. So not the get jacked, not the big goal at the end. Getting jacked will be a byproduct of those daily mini wins. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that big of a win if you had a good workout, or you got to bed on time, or but you finished all 5 of your meals for today and you got all your calories in. And at times, eating all of your meals, getting all your calories in, training hard, getting to bed at a reasonable hour, it doesn't feel like superhero activities. It's not some great achievement that you crown yourself with. But these small, almost, they feel meaningless in the time being, but all of these micro wins lead up to the big goal. And the whole point of this is that you don't set your sights on the goal that's a year, 2 years, 5 years away. It's that you set your sights on the goals of today, eating all of your meals, training hard, getting to bed on time. I'm going to keep repeating it because that's really all that matters at the end of the day. Like I said, if you skip out on one of them, then you're missing out on a great proportion of your gains. So don't focus on the small details. Don't focus on the long journey ahead of you. If you can see the first step that's in front of you, take that. And oftentimes you can because you already know what to do with these inputs. Most guys fail and never get the body they want. They never get as strong as they want. They never get as big as they want because they don't stick with it and they give up and they think that these small meaningless wins are meaningless, but they're very, very meaningful if you just stick with it. Don't be most guys. Don't be another statistic. Don't be the guy that gave it a shot but then gave up because it was too hard. Be the guy who wins this thing. So if you think of this like a bridge with each brick representing the actions that you have to take each and every day, the inputs, and you have you at the start and the ultimate version of you at the end, the you that accomplishes his goals. And every single day you walk the bridge and you continue to lay these bricks down, you continue to improve, but then eventually you do a little bit less and you kind of skip out on some meals, you stay out late, you skip out on some training sessions, or you don't go as hard as you know you should. And so you fall off into spikes. You fall into metal spikes. That's what happens here. Instead, you're continuing to walk the bridge. You continue to lay the bricks every single day until eventually you look back and you become the person that you were meant to be. But again, that doesn't happen until you lay those bricks, until you continue to perform these actions, you continue to accomplish these inputs, these daily to-dos that you check off. And by the time you do that for 6 months, a year, 2 years, that yellow, the golden you that you see at the end, it becomes the new you. And it didn't happen overnight, but it happened. We're going to do an exercise. So I want you to stick with me here. So I'm going to show you a red card. I show you a red card. Then I slap you. I show you a red card. I slap you again. I show you a red card. What are you going to do this time? You duck. You have learned. And so learning how it's been defined for me and how I define it myself is same condition, new behavior. When the same event or opportunity arises, you change your response. And so you've learned things here today. So when life shows you a red card, now you know to change how you reply. And a red card can be many things. It can be deciding whether to skip a meal or to finish it and accomplish your goal for the day. It can be to train hard when you aren't forced to. It can be choosing whether to watch that movie on Netflix or to get to bed on time. And if money's tight, it could be picking whether you should spend the few amounts of dollars you have on drinks at the club or groceries. And so again, red cards, you're going to see them all over the place, but I want you to understand what they are and how you can respond to them. And so if you have an opportunity, let's just say you want to watch that movie on Netflix, but it's 11 p.m. and you should probably be in bed by now. Now you know that this right here, this is a red card. And so are you going to get slapped or are you going to duck? And you used to get slapped all the time, but you have an opportunity to change your behavior. And if life shows you a red card and you keep getting slapped every single time and you never change your behavior, you are by definition a dummy. You are stupid because you had the opportunity to change your behavior at the same condition and you chose not to. Now you could either have done that on purpose or by accident, but either way, you're choosing not to get better. So again, does this action get me closer or does it get me further away from my goals? And so you always want to align yourself with the actions that get you closer. Opportunities. So this still follows under the environment bucket. Do the people in your life want to encourage you to get better? So do they want more for you than you want for yourself? And the follow-up question to that is, when do they try and draw you away? So not do they try and draw you away, because everyone in your life is going to try and draw you away at some point. You know, your family's going to need you for a certain event. Maybe your girlfriend's going to want to spend the night with you. Your friends are going to want you to go out with them. You know, maybe your employer wants you to work an extra shift, whatever. Someone's going to try to draw you away from your task at some point. But when do they do it? Do they do it when you're working on yourself and you're trying to improve? Or do they understand how hard you're working and they only bug you when you're free? And so if you're constantly chasing these goals and everyone around you is telling you not to do it, those people probably shouldn't be in your life anymore. And so again, that saying no becomes that much more critical. And the next question to that is, how many different things do you have vying for your attention? So how many different opportunities do you go after every single day? Or do you just limit yourself to a few goals? Because I'll tell you, the guy who's only going after that one goal is going to beat the person who has 2, 3, 4, 5 other things going on at once. And so you always want to try to say no to everything else, but say yes to the one thing that matters most. And that often means doing less things. In the same way that a heart surgeon is doing heart surgery, doesn't do brain surgery, he doesn't do emergency medicine, probably not. He's probably not a dentist. He probably, doesn't own multiple businesses or travels the world all the time. If he's a heart surgeon, he's a heart surgeon. And so if your goal is to get jacked, if your goal is to put on muscle mass, your goal should be to put on muscle mass. Your goal should not be 5, 6 other things that you also want to do at once. And you can do those other things, absolutely, but understand that the more things you add, the more you take away from the big goal. And if you're watching this, I'm assuming getting the body you want, getting bigger, getting stronger is your big goal. And so let's stick with that. Like I said, say no. At some point, you're going to have to pick. One of those inputs, the eat all your meals, train hard, or get to bed on time, one of these 3 is going to be compromised at some point. And so you have to pick what's important to you. How much does it matter? Do you keep stepping away from the goal, or do you keep getting better? And so that's a decision you have to make for yourself. Being committed, consistent, whatever, it doesn't mean jack until you're faced with these choices, these tempting opportunities, and yet you still pick the bigger goal. So you can say all you want that you're committed, that you can stick with something, but at the end of the day, when you're tested, do you really stick by your guns and pick the big one? And so I really like this tweet from Alex that sums it up pretty good. And so you can read it if you like, but yeah, I think this encapsulates everything that I want to say pretty well. So what to do? Try being consistent. When the opportunity arises, you know that you probably shouldn't do that thing, say no and focus on the big goal. Repetition of similar actions over time without quitting. To me, that's consistency, and I think it's probably the best definition there is for it. If your friends give you shit, find new friends. No true friend will ever clown you for going after a big goal like this. And if they do, talk to them. Explain to them why you're going after this one thing, why it matters to you. And if they laugh in your face, or if they continue to bug you about it, and they give you heck for not being like them or being different now that you're going for this goal, drop them. Find new friends. And if you want to learn even faster, find people who have already achieved the consistency, the physique, the strength that you want, that you desire, and learn from them. Now, that could be someone in your life right now. It could be a friend, a family member, someone you go to school with, someone at work, or it could be someone online like me. And I'm always happy to answer any questions related to getting bigger, to getting more jacked, because I've been through the wheel myself. And so I have, I think, a decent understanding on how this works, at least how it works for me. And if you don't know anybody like that, that's fine. Find people who are chasing a similar goal and then be around them. So your friends, like my friends aren't all into bodybuilding and business. Some of them like golf, some of them like fighting, some of them like chess, some of them like different things. And so I find rallying yourself with people, with friends who are also going after their big goal makes it a lot easier for you to go after your big goal, because you see how hard they work. And so you try to match their level, and then you guys build off each other, which I think is really useful. So with environment down and understood, I want to move on to actions. So this is going to be the shortest kind of bucket that I got, because it's just really simple things that you can start doing. So again, I'm going to hammer this over and over and over again, but say no. When you don't want to do something, say that I'm good. I'd rather not. I'd rather do this. Does insert activity get me closer or further from my goals? If your friends want less for you than you want for yourself, move on. And so I use friends as a multifaceted term here. So it could be your family, it could be people at work, people at school, whoever you surround yourself with in life. If their dreams for you are not as big as your dreams for yourself, then they're probably not the right person for you, especially after you explain your dreams to them and they still shut you down. It's okay to move on from people. It's not the end of the world. You're going to find new friends eventually. And like I said earlier, don't be a robot. If you hate the actions you must take, if you hate eating meals, if you hate getting to bed on time, if you hate, being consistent and training hard and progressing and getting better, this goal isn't for you. And that's okay. You're good at something else. And there's probably something in the world that you prefer to do. Go after that, right? This is for people who want to get bigger and stronger. And so if you like football or you like chess or you like computers and you want to learn how to code, do that. I feel like these tips really apply to any domain, regardless of what they are. I'm just talking from personal experience of getting jacked. Again, if you can take one or two things from this video and apply it to your own life, I consider that a huge win. Now, time. This is the final bucket. I thought that I didn't have time for the majority of my life. Probably up until last year, I thought I didn't have time to do anything. My schedule was booked through and through, but it really just comes down to how you allocate it. So for example, I used to think I had no time to finish my work, and then I looked on my screen time because I was tired of complaining, and I just figured I may as well check how much time I'm spending on my devices, and then I found 2 hours on Instagram. And so I just found 2 hours of extra time. So you cut out Instagram, I just gained 2 hours. Pretty cool. Instagram can be multifaceted. It can be whatever. It could be Netflix, it could be YouTube. It could be spending time with people that you don't want to spend time with, or, laying in bed doing nothing, right? Like everyone has something that they do that doesn't really get them to where they want to go and isn't really useful. So cut it. And so I want to ask you a question. What does Michael Jordan, Chris Bumstead, David Lade, and you have in common? Every one of these people have 24 hours in a day. And so organize it. So spend time planning out your day. Spend time figuring out how long it takes you to eat, how long it takes you to work out, how long it takes you to get ready for bed. Organize your day. And then you'll find that, hey, I actually have 3 hours of extra time that I can dedicate to this goal. My schedule's actually not as busy as I thought it was. And so I can get these meals in on time. I can get to bed on time. I can take the time to train harder and learn. And so organize your day. In this time bucket, I want to get 3 smaller buckets kind of outlined with you, and more specifically how we're going to manage our time. So sleep is king, being where your feet are, and picking and planning. So sleep is king. Now, when you don't get a sufficient amount of sleep, you are less focused, less consistent, more irritable, so you're unable to handle stress. You're more stressed, so you get even more stress in your life, and you're unable to handle the stress you already have, so add more in on top of that. You're weaker, you're fatter, you're less confident, you're socially inept, your dick doesn't really work, you get sick for longer, you get more sick, you get more acne, and you just move slower through life. That sucks. So going to bed on time is the best thing you can do. I recommend setting a go to bed alarm. What this is people set an alarm to get up early in the morning. I set an alarm to go to bed. So when the alarm hits, I'm in bed. When you first start using this new alarm, if you decide to do so, you're going to need both a night and morning alarm because you might not be used to operating just off a night alarm, but eventually you will. And so you can set your night alarm at 9:30 p.m. and then your bed alarm at 10 p.m. And so you give yourself time to get ready for bed, and then you're in bed by 10 p.m. The reasoning for this is we always can't control when we get up, but we can always control when we go to sleep. And so if you're going to sleep consistently at the same time, over time, those benefits are going to add up, and you miss that big list that you saw earlier. So you don't run into any of that. And this is what I call a 1 is 1,000 habit. And so if you get this one thing right, this going to bed on time, this singular habit nailed, you get all the opposite of that big list. You get all the benefits. But if you get it wrong, then you get all of the downsides. And so it's really an all or nothing type deal. A little bit of extra sleep goes a long way, and a little bit of lost sleep is very detrimental. I'd really like you to nail that as well. Here's some things that I found that got me better sleep instantly, and I hope that you can take one or two of these things and apply them to your own life. So, not working or doing anything intensive right before bed. So, that includes a super hard workout, running around, working on the computer, maybe like an intense conversation or argument, something that requires a lot of energy and a lot of output on your end. Probably isn't recommended right before bed. So, if you want to take like 20 minutes, half an hour just to chill out, sit down, eat, shower, wash your face, do whatever. Something that's nonchalant and an easy activity, I think works really well. If you pee during the night, take salt. If you have salt tabs, I just sprinkle salt. We have this little salt grinder thing and I just sprinkle it. Take a pinch of salt with a zero sugar sports drink. So I recommend Powerade Zero or Gatorade Zero. I wouldn't do a sugar containing sports drink because sugar is just going to keep you up. And I also wouldn't do water because the whole point of this is to retain all fluids in your body so you don't have to pee at night. And sports drinks have sodium, a lot of sodium in them. And so that'll contribute to the extra water retention. And then you just pee it out in the morning and you're good to go. So for me, that works really well. Like we mentioned, setting an alarm to go to bed is a big thing. We already touched on that. And if you're looking for supplements, magnesium, ashwagandha, and zinc work really well. Magnesium and ashwagandha are natural sedatives, so you'll be able to be a little bit more relaxed going into bed. You can take them like an hour before you fall asleep. Zinc also contributes to this, although it's not a sedative. It does boost testosterone, which is a nice plus. Melatonin, if necessary, I don't recommend going straight to melatonin because it's the most powerful and most potent one. And so if you want to fall asleep right away or on time, melatonin's great for that. But getting dependent on it means that once you come off it, you're going to be like wide awake for like 3 days. And that's no good. So melatonin only if necessary. And here are some things that I found also got me better sleep, but these are more like environment based. So like with your room, turn all the lights off in your room. So no computer, monitor, clock, electronic, nothing should be plugged in except for your alarm clock. So that's either your phone, or if it's not your phone and you have an actual alarm clock, make sure it doesn't have any lights on it. Get your phone out of the room because there's no reason to keep your phone in your room if it's not your alarm clock. I use my phone as my alarm clock, so that's my reasoning for that. Turn all the lights off because even the smallest light can make the difference and make your brain aware that you still have light on in the room and that it should be awake. You should be able to have a pitch black dark room in the middle of the day. That's the goal. And so if you can't get that, then there's too much light. Turn your room's temperature down between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Most guys run decently hot at night, and it's been proven that, colder rooms are a little bit better for sleep. So if you can be cold without your sheets, without your blanket, then I think you're in a good spot. And usually 68 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit is the golden range for that. And if you're a light sleeper, which I'm not, I fall asleep and stay asleep pretty well. But you can get a white noise machine or earplugs, noise canceling headphones, whatever, anything to block out the noise. Again, these are like one-time things. Same with all the things on the last slide, like with the salt tab and then the alarm and everything like that. These are things that you do once and then get benefits forever. So again, just take one or two of these things and give them a shot. And if it doesn't really work for you, you don't like it, go on to the next thing. Be where your feet are. So this is another way of saying do one thing at a time. When you're eating, eat. When you're working, work. When you're with other people, listen to what they have to say. If by doing one thing at a time, all of your discretionary effort is going towards one task. And so you can move a lot faster by just doing one thing at a time. Oftentimes we think we're progressing faster by doing multiple things at once, but we're not. There was a study done at an American college, I don't really recall which one, and they had two groups. So one group was focused on completing one task, we'll call it task A, and then the other group was focused on completing both task A and task B. So they were chosen to multitask. And so the researchers wanted to see if the group that was focused on a singular task could work faster than the group that was multitasking. And not only did the first group work faster, they actually worked 4 times faster at completing the one task than the multitasking group was at completing one task. In a very real way, you're 4xing the amount of time it takes you to do something by trying to do multiple things at once. And so if you want some examples of what not to do when you're eating, for example, a lot of people watch YouTube or they watch Netflix or they talk with people or they're working or they're moving around. These are things that happen during the day, and I get it. Sometimes you just want to sit and watch a video. Sometimes somebody's trying to talk to you while you're eating. Sometimes you have to move around or complete another task, and that's perfectly fine. But I'm just saying, in general, know that it's taking you longer to get that meal down rather than just isolating yourself and finishing that one meal, then moving on to the next task, be it watch a YouTube video or move around or go do another task. Like I said, in a very real way, you are slowing down your productivity, your time management by 4 times. So you're moving 25% of the speed that you would be, which not ideal if your goal is to save time and get all the meals in, train hard, and get to bed on time, right? And I have this timer here. So I got it on Amazon. It's a kitchen rotary timer. It's like only like 20 bucks. I'll leave the link for it in the description. So basically you just, hopefully you guys can see this, but you just crank the dial and then pick your time. And what it does is it counts down. So you can see it counting down right there. And if I want to stop the timer, all I do is click it. Now, this is very useful when I'm eating, because if I really need to gun it and I need to get this meal done quickly, what I do is I set a timer for however long I think it's going to take me to eat the meal. Usually that's whatever, 20, 25 minutes. And when I get distracted, I pause the timer. And so it reinforces me to stay on task and not do anything else except eat the meal. And so that way, I'm moving 4 times faster. I'm using this statistic, but as an example. But you get the idea. I can move up to 4 times faster by just doing one thing at a time. So the excuse, I don't have time, is actually kind of BS when you think about it. And when you put into practice the things that I'm showing you right now. So it makes it a lot easier to be consistent. Picking and planning. This was the third thing that I talked about on the time bucket. And so we talked about deciding what's important to you, what you have to say no to. And so now let's plan how we're going to do it. And so I have a little bit of an exercise for you. It won't take longer than 90 seconds, I promise. I don't want to waste your time. What you do is grab a piece of paper and a pen. So if you want to pause this video and go grab your stuff, you can absolutely do that. Grab a piece of paper, pen, and then write the following. So you're going to write tomorrow's date at the top, and then below that, you're going to write when you plan to eat all of your meals. So what times during the day do you plan to eat your meals? And when tomorrow comes, eat those meals at those times. Again, not very complex. If you have work the next day and you know you have work, then you might want to eat the meals before work, during work, or at your lunch break, and then after work. If you have a meeting that day, then you want to eat before your meeting, you want to eat after your meeting. If you plan to go out and party that night, get all of your meals in before you go to the party, because most parties usually take place at night anyways. What you don't want to do is have 3 out of your 5 meals for the day and then go party, because we all know that you're not going to finish them when you get back, especially if you've been drinking or doing whatever else you do. So pick the times that you need to eat those meals and then eat those meals at those times. I know it sounds super basic and very primary, but I promise it works if you put it into practice. I have a visual example here on the left. So I'm recording this today on November 11th, and tomorrow would be Tuesday, November 12th. And so you can see I have my 5 meals. I have meal 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then the times I'm going to eat them at. And then when I finish the meal, I cross each one of them off. And so what happens with that is I get a sense of accomplishment for finishing those meals, and then I also finish those meals, so I get closer to my goal. These little things, again, if you can take 1 or 2 things from this and apply it to your own life, it doesn't have to be this specific thing or the sleep things. It could be a belief that you want to change in your life or something you want to let go of. Maybe there's a friend that's been kind of on your mind that you're like, I don't know if I should be hanging out with this guy anymore. Consider this. So these are a bunch of different things that you can try. It's just what's worked for me, and I'm more than happy to share that with the world. Final points. Don't try and do all 39 things at once. You will absolutely fail, I guarantee it. I'm pretty sure I have 39 things when I counted them. That's what the total said. And so if you try all 39 of the tips, the beliefs, the strategies, everything above, beyond, below, and in between, you're going to fail and you're not going to get any of them right, and that's going to be extremely discouraging. So pick your 2 favorite things from this. I task you, go through this video, or if you already remember them, pick your 2 favorite things from this video, try them, and then keep doing them. Again, that's what consistency looks like. We defined it at the beginning, right? Repetition of similar actions over time without quitting. That is consistency. So if you can repeat similar actions, again, you don't have to be a robot, but do the things that will get you closer to your goal more often without giving up. And you will be deemed consistent. Consistency is not a binary. It's not, are you consistent, yes or no? It's how consistent are you? Are you willing to say no to X, Y, and Z for this bigger goal? That's something you have to ask yourself, right? I can't answer that for you. I can only give you everything that's worked for me, and this is it on this video. The point of the game is to keep playing. I said this earlier, but nobody cares if you're in shape for 6 months, right? You get in shape and then you gain all this mass and you gain all this muscle and you're really happy and you're super confident. And then, your schedule gets busy. You stop lifting, you stop eating, you stop going to bed on time. And so I don't have time is a BS excuse, because you're never going to really have time. You'll have times in your life where you're really busy, and you'll have times in your life when you're not as busy, but there's always going to be something going on. So you start today. That's the whole point of this. And then finally, make the inputs your goal, not the big one, not the big championship, not the get jacked, the inputs. Eat all of your meals, train hard, get to bed on time. Remember that bridge, that brick bridge I showed you, remember that. Little steps like that every single day. 6 months, a year later, you look back and you say, wow, I achieved this goal and I wasn't even thinking about it. It just happens on its own. Guys, if you have any comments, any questions, I'm absolutely open to hearing them, and I'm super happy to always answer any questions that you guys have. I find great joy in doing this, and I do this because I was really skinny growing up, and I failed miserably many times along the way, and I don't want people to go through the same thing, and I want them to do it better and faster than I did, and I think I did a pretty damn good job of this so far. And so yeah, this makes me super happy to do. So if you have any comments, any questions that you want to get answered, just let me know in the drop box below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.